Hey, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Dan, and welcome to the Mobile Artist Cafe. In this video, I'll keep everything short as we look at drawing the hand from a closed and an open position and from a couple of different angles. Let's get to it. Very often we'll sketch out our shapes in a more 3D fashion. And usually this may mean that we're using cylinders as opposed to rectangles. So if I was going to make reference to the center of my finger, then I would draw a line going down where I wanted the center to be. And then we can go back and put in whatever details were needed. But this can be very confusing for a beginning artist, trying to figure out exactly where to put what line and when to put it there. So we keep things simple. Instead of using more rounded cylindrical shapes to represent the various parts, we'll instead just use flattened rectangles. Then we can always keep things simple and then just go back later and add in a bit more detail. Understanding shape and three-dimensional form is key to any drawing. As you practice breaking down the forms, you'll become more familiar with it. After a while, it will become second nature. Eventually, the shapes will automatically be in your head and you won't have to worry about sketching them out, and you'll be able to just go in and directly start to make the actual form. The most important thing that you can have when doing any drawing is to make sure to gather as many reference materials as possible. Now, if you don't have access to the internet when you're wanting to work on drawing hands, or if you don't have any books with hands available, you have your own two hands right with you. You can always use your body and a small mirror as a reference for the work that you want to do. So, starting out, as we look at the shape of this hand, the first thing we'll notice is right here is a big trapezoid. Here is where our oval will be for the thumb, and then there could be another small trapezoid here, followed by several trapezoids for the fingers. So first we'll take a look at the trapezoids for the thumb. The larger trapezoid covers the larger part of the thumb, and the smaller trapezoid covers the smaller part of the thumb. Now, this trapezoid here also gets smaller on this end as it moves away from you because we're moving back in perspective. We'll cover that in another series of tutorials later. As you can see here, this knuckle is closer to you, and then the tip of the thumb moves away from you, so this end is going to naturally be smaller. The fleshy part of the thumb will be represented by an oval, and we'll have a trapezoid here representing this part of the hand as it goes from the wide base at the wrist to the narrower part of the hand moving toward the fingers. And you can see how as it moves toward the tip of the finger, each trapezoid gets a little smaller in shape. Just remember that breaking everything down into the primary shapes helps to make the forms easier to draw. This shape is very similar, except that the fingers are spread out more. And in the previous drawing, you notice that the wider part of our trapezoid was here as it moved toward the smaller part of the hand here. But because the fingers are splayed out, our trapezoid is actually going to be reversed now, because this part of the hand that you're going to be drawing is wider than your wrist. And as we move toward the tip of the fingers, just as with the previous drawing, we break it at each knuckle and each trapezoid gets progressively smaller. So when you're sketching out your ideas or sketching out the hand of a model that you may be using, you can just break it down into these simpler shapes until you can go back over later and put in your finer details. On the thumb again, here we would have that oval or circle representing that fleshy part of the thumb and the knuckle. And again, we'd have more trapezoids representing the thumb here. Now, basically your trapezoids are going to be just rectangles that are wider at one end than they are at the other end. If you keep these basic shapes in mind, it really helps to simplify the process for you. As we look at the hand from a different angle, we're going to look at the fist this time, and we're looking at the fist from the front. So you can actually see that instead of a trapezoid, we could actually represent this part here using an oval. We could use ovals here as well. But the reason that we're going to use trapezoids to represent these fingers is because where the knuckles are, the shape changes a lot. So here our trapezoid would actually be small up here till we go down to the knuckle. As it comes closer to you, it gets larger. Then the next trapezoid on the bottom part of the finger, as it moves away from you, the trapezoid would actually get smaller. So we'll look at the trapezoid for the thumb first. As it comes toward us from the background, it gets larger here. And then as it moves toward the tip of the finger of the thumb, which is actually smaller, the trapezoid will also be smaller. Now, the two fleshier parts of the hand, even though you don't see the whole palm, these can still be represented by ovals or circles. And as I mentioned earlier, when we do the trapezoids for the fingers, it starts off here at the knuckle, and then as it comes down toward this knuckle, which is closer to you, the trapezoids will be larger. And then as the end of the finger moves away from you, the trapezoids will be smaller. So once again, as we break these down into their simple primary shapes, it makes the overall form much easier to draw. Now, as we look at our fist from the bottom, a different angle, we still have all of the basic primary shapes. Here on the fleshy part of the palm, once again, we're going to have our circles or our ovals. On the thumb again, we're going to have our trapezoids. There'll be one here, and it breaks at this knuckle as it goes down toward the tip and gets a little smaller. And then we'll have the second trapezoid here. And again with the fingers, wider at the top knuckle. Then it comes down, gets a little narrower because now this part of the finger is going to actually be moving from you. And then the last knuckle will be moving even further away from you, making an even smaller trapezoid. So here's basically the form of our thumb, and then our palm with the circles or ovals, and the digits of our fingers are represented by the trapezoids. As I stated at the beginning, and I can't emphasize this enough, make sure to have your reference materials with you, whether you're using your own hand and a mirror, or just looking at your hand, or a photograph, or a book, or even looking at the internet on another monitor if you have your iPad sitting in front of a computer. It is always easier to use the reference material to have something to base your drawings on. Practice using the basic shapes until they become second nature for you. Sketching the basic shapes out will help you to solidify your ideas inside and outside of your head so that the end result will be much easier over time. Well, that's it for now, and I hope you picked up something you can use. If so, go out there, make some incredible art, share it with the world to help make it a better place. Until next time, on behalf of myself and the gang here at the cafe, thank you for stopping by. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and check back each week to stay up to date with our latest information. And don't forget to leave any comments or questions in the details below. And you have a fantastic day.